Hey there, it's Ben from Pattern Profits, and I want to bring you a few setups from the watch list. First, Tesla, another pocket pivot over here. We had two this week, and just below the 764.45 pivot now. 10 MA cloud acting as support just below. This does look ready for a breakout. What we like to see is it push through that 764.45 pivot and make some progress to the upside. Then we use that level to manage our risk. Ideally, we see 1020 MA cloud move up with price and this trend line doesn't come into play. However, if it doesn't break out early next week and we see some continued weakness, look for this to come back and maybe go sideways and at some point could test this trend line again, especially if the general market remains weak before it makes that breakout. I also have Snapchat. This is a power earnings gap. We've had it on the radar before. If you've been following me on Twitter for any period of time, you'll find that I do share this setup quite a bit. I'm a big fan of these power earnings gaps where they have big green volume like this. And I attach anchored VWAP to that right there. Price kind of danced around it, tried to break out here. This 79.18 is the high on that power earnings gap day right there. Tried to break out, couldn't go, rolled over, and now you have a descending trend line here that it pushed up against a few times, was below anchored VWAP, but today you came right up, tried to go early and break out, but couldn't hold that. The general market weakness brought it in, but closed right there at anchored VWAP, closed right there at that descending trend line. And what we look for now is on strength Monday, especially early. Price opens up there in the wick and then can make that turn to the upside back above anchored VWAP. We'd know that the buyers are back in control. And then we look for the move to come back up here and retest that 79.18 level. Note here, the slower moving 50-65 moving average providing support down here. What we like to see when we do make that move is the faster 1020 moving average will provide support on any pullbacks. I also have XB. Have been in this one quite a few times over the last about year and a half or so. And you'll see I have a prior power earnings gap anchor here, an anchor here from the high. And then this red one is the year-to-date anchored VWAP. So as we come over here and zoom in, you can see that we have a triangle, symmetrical triangle forming, and price close right against the anchored VWAP from this power earnings gap. So that's big volume here we like to see. Power earnings gap, anchored VWAP attached, and you're right there, closed right at it. Then you have year-to-date anchored VWAP is that red one just below, and you have the trend line. So what we look for here, sometimes I don't mind taking this here. And this is early entry. There's more risk taking it down here, but there's also more reward if it does break out and you got it in down here. On the other hand, if you take it down here, this level fails, easy to exit, and that risk is managed very tightly, benched against these levels. So XB, excellent fundamentals on this growth name, looking for a breakout there. I also have AHR. This one is a little bit more aggressive. This is one of the first ones as far as the flags that I've shed. I do like this pattern, but it's more for the aggressive traders who have some experience with these high type flags. You had a big run here. Basically, the stock doubled from 5 to over 10. Now it's forming a symmetrical triangle up here, and it's not really coming in. That means the buyers that bought down in this area and rode this up, they're not in a hurry to sell. A lot of times we see this pattern wait on the 10 MA cloud, and as soon as that 10 MA cloud gets in there, we see the breakout. That's exactly how I like to play these, is with a breakout. You got the inside day there to work with too. Price comes above that inside day and breaks out. that's the entry signal. And again, using this trend line or the 10 MA cloud as it rises to manage risk. I also want to take a look at OSUR. This isn't a setup. This is just one that we talked about most of the week. It was on the scanner. We talked about it in the video. I just wanted to give you an idea. When you have an obvious trend line like this with multiple touches, where we had 3-4 touches, to that trend line, and it becomes an obvious level, and you start to see the volume pick up, knowing that the stock had unusual options activity, heavy options activity, there's heavy short interest here. Once it breaks that trend line and becomes obvious to all, you can get these types of moves. And when you see this type of volume early in the session, there's not only organic buyers there, but shorts are getting squeezed too. So just wanted to point that out and how I like to trade those. That's all I've got for now. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll be trading with you next week.